Hello, YouTubers, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have 4 articles in this episode for you. The first one here is U.S. fires dozens of Tomahawks at Syria military base near Homs. Assad's chemical attack. If we can get this to scroll up a little bit, I'll got to say here. For the hamster to catch up to me. U.S. has launched 50 to 60 Tomahawk missiles against the Syrian military base near Homs. Donald Trump ordered the strikes for chemical attack in Idlib. Hamster's jumping around here a little bit. Get him to settle down. There we go. Blaming the incident on President Bashar Assad. U.S. ships Mediterranean Sea reportedly launched the strike on Syria's Sarat Air Base on Thursday night, local time. And there's some pictures and this URL if you want to look at them. All these URLs, of course, are in the description of the video for your convenience. U.S. President Donald Trump spoke from his Mar-a-Lago resort following the airstrikes, accusing Assad of using nerve gas that killed civilians in Idlib. Calling it a targeted military strike, Trump said the Homs airfield was where the chemical gas attack earlier this week originated from. Described the attack vital national security interest and called upon civilized nations to help end the slaughter in Syria. There can be no dispute that Syria used banned chemical weapons, violated its obligations under the Chemical Weapons Convention, and ignored the UN Security Council. Years of previous attempts at behavior have all failed, and failed very dramatically. U.S. Tomahawks land attack missiles were launched from U.S. warships USS Porter and USS Ross from the eastern Mediterranean Sea, Captain Jeff Davis said in a statement. Davis added that extraordinary measures were taken to avoid civilian casualties and that every precaution was taken the risk to personnel at the airfield. The Pentagon has released photos of Tomahawk missiles showing the moment they were being launched from the U.S. warships in the eastern Mediterranean Sea. And there's some more pictures in this. Some tweets. Tweet says Pentagon released first pictures of Tomahawk cruise missiles launching from U.S. Navy warships in Syria. Some video in this of the launches from the USS Ross. Speaking on live Al Mayadeen TV, the governor of Homs province, Talal Bazare, there were dead and injured in the strike on the airbase. This was not immediately clear. Bazare said strike at the Syrian army installation was forces. Leadership and the Syrian policy will not change, he said in a phone interview with state television Rutgers. This target was not the first, and I don't believe it will be the last. State, a news agency, cited a military source on the ground was confirming the strike and claiming that it resulted in casualties. There is in this, if you want to pull it up and take a look at that. I don't know why why the hamster's moving so slow to page up for me. He seems to be having a problem. There's a tweet that says Pentagon, at the direction of POTUS, U.S. forces conducted cruise missile strike against a Syrian Air Force airfield today at about 8:40 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It was allegedly targeted after the U.S. blamed for the chemical incident. Come on. Okay, the Syrian military for the chemical incident in Adlib, in which dozens of civilians died from suspected gas poisoning in the rebel-occupied territory. Up to 86 people, including 26 children, are alleged to have been killed. States have immediately pinned the blame on Assad's forces, while Russia said Syrian jets bombed a warehouse where chemical weapons were being produced. State Rex Tillerson has accused Russia of failing to carry out the 2013 agreement to secure Syria's chemical weapon arsenal, claiming that Moscow was either incompetent or complicit. However, the responsibility to remove and destroy the weapons was never laid on Moscow. And for the chemical weapons, or the OPCW, was tasked and has been verifying that Damascus kept its part of the bargain jointly with the UN. Claimed that the U.S. had a high degree of confidence that sarin gas has been used in the alleged chemical attack. He did not offer explanation as to why responding to the incident were apparently not affected by the sarin despite not wearing any protection gear, as footage released by the activists suggested. Captured the moment of the strike on social media, reportedly filmed by a resident near base. Repeated loud noises, allegedly from explosions, can be heard in the video, and bright sparks are seen moving across the dark sky. More video in this. A Lebanon-based CEO of hamster got a little too froggy there. Lebanon-based CEO of Al Masdar News, Laith Abou Fadel, that the strike has resulted in no casualties among the Syrian military, adding that the missiles targeted the same area on the airfield. Article I have, well, all of these articles are off of RT. Says Moscow's support for Damascus not unconditional. Assad follow Russia's orders, says Peskov. And as soon as it scrolls up here, there we go. The assistance that Russia lends the government, Bashar Assad, solving crisis is not unconditional, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told the AP, adding that Moscow cannot just make Assad follow its orders. And the Syrian government are engaged into a relationship of cooperation in exchange of views and full mutual support, Peskov said, stressing that the relations are equitable, hierarchical. He admitted that Moscow's support of Damascus is not unconditional by saying that unconditional support is not possible in the current world, but stressed that it is not correct to say that Moscow can convince Mr. Assad to do whatever Moscow. This is totally wrong, he said, referring to any assumption suggesting that Moscow can direct Damascus' actions. Peskov's remarks came just 2 days after a suspected chemical weapon incident claiming lives of dozens of people in the Syrian province. The Russian president's spokesman said Russia expects a full international investigation to be conducted before UN Security Council considers any resolution incident that he described as very tragic. Doing otherwise would be simply unfair in terms of international law, Peskov said. The UN Security Council convened on Wednesday to discuss a draft resolution the US, the UK, and France, which would condemn Damascus for the reported chemical weapons attack in the town of Khan in the Idlib province on Tuesday morning. During the meeting, the US hinted at action in Syria unless the UN Security Council moves to prevent the use of chemical weapons in the war-torn country. Today, Russia introduced its own draft resolution on the investigation of the alleged chemical attack in Idlib. UN Security Council in response to the resolution prepared by the US, UK, and France. It also criticized the Western-backed resolution for being unbalanced and jumping to conclusions. In an interview with the AP, Peskov complained that there is a minor exchange of information going on between Moscow and Washington about the situation on the ground in Syria, which is insufficient cooperation. He also expressed his hope that the upcoming visit of Secretary of State Tillerson in Moscow will somehow highlight the attitude of the American side toward the rising tensions in Syria. Rex Tillerson is scheduled to visit Moscow early next week. Syria's foreign minister dismissed allegations that Syria's army had chemical weapons in the Idlib province, condemning the attack. Earlier on Thursday, Russian Foreign Ministry dismissed substantiated statements by the U.S. Vice President Mike Pence that Moscow and Damascus had failed to fulfill their obligations under a landmark 2013 deal to eliminate Syria's chemical weapon arsenal. The next article that I have on this is the hamster gets it up here. There we go. Pentagon says White House in detailed discussions on military options in Syria by a U.S. official. President Donald Trump is being, up there too quick for me. President Donald Trump is being briefed on full-range military options in Syria after the White House blamed the government in Damascus for the alleged chemical attacks that killed dozens of civilians in Idlib province. Among the options would be using cruise missiles to attack Syrian targets and grounding Syrian aircraft, an unnamed U.S. official told Reuters on Thursday. The official did not say how likely U.S. military action would be. However, Secretary of Defense James Mattis and National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster have been discussing the matter. Mattis is due to meet with Trump later in the day at the president's Mar-a-Lago retreat, where a summit meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping is underway. Speaking with reporters aboard Air Force One, Trump said that something should happen with Assad after the chemical attack, calling what happened in Syria a disgrace to humanity. There's no doubt in our minds, and the information we have supports, that the Syrian regime under the leadership of Bashar al-Assad are responsible for this attack, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson told reporters in Florida on Thursday, adding that there is no role for Assad in Syria after this. Tillerson also warned Russia that it should consider carefully their support for Assad. CNN reported that Trump has spoken to some members of Congress about military actions in Syria. The president himself denied that report, however, according to Fox News correspondent Chad Peregrine. Earlier on Thursday, Senator Rand Paul, Republican of Kentucky, announced that he would oppose any military action without a vote in Congress. The president, if he decides to do something in Syria, he would come to Congress and ask for a declaration of war. Short of Congress voting on it, I'm opposed to illegal and unconstitutional wars, Paul told Fox News radio show Kilmeade and Friends. Senators John McCain, Republican of Arizona, and Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, however, called for Trump to attack Syria. The United States should lead an international coalition to ground Assad air forces, they said in a joint statement on Thursday. This capability provides Assad a strategic advantage in his brutal slaughter of innocent civilians, both through the use of chemical weapons as well as barrel bombs, which kill far more men and women and children on a daily basis. Damascus has denied using chemical weapons, saying that its jets targeted an arms depot where the chemical weapons stockpiles were stored by Islamic State, IS, formerly ISIS or ISIL, and al-Nusra Front militants. The Russian Ministry of Defense has confirmed that account of events. The strike, which was launched midday Tuesday, targeted a major rebel ammunition depot east of town of Khan Sheikhun. Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Major General Igor Koneshikov said in a statement. According to Koneshikov, the warehouse was used to both produce and store shells containing toxic gas. The shells were delivered to Iraq and repeatedly used there, said the spokesman, pointing out that both Iraq and international organizations have confirmed the use of such weapons by militants. And the final article in this episode says, Syria government won't change. Homs governor calls out American aggression, describes strike aftermath. And get it up here so I can read it. The American missile attack on Syria won't topple its government or change the policies of Damascus, the governor of Homs province said after a barrage of 59 Tomahawk cruise missiles targeted a Syrian airfield located there. The Syrian leadership and Syrian policy will not change, Talal Bazari said in a phone interview with Syrian state television. This targeting was not first, and I don't believe it will be the last. Speaking live on Al Mayadeen TV, Barazi said that there were dead and injured in the strike on the air base. The number of casualties was not immediately clear. Barazi told Ruggers that firefighting and rescue operations were underway at the Sharat airfield after the U.S. attack, but that he believed that there were not many casualties on the ground. Barazi said Washington's escalation of the conflict in Syria only served terrorist groups such as Islamic State. The governor said that the base played a significant role in the recent capture of the city of Palmyra. The Syrian state TV called the attack American aggression. On Friday, U.S. warships in the eastern Mediterranean fired 59 Tomahawk missiles at the Syrian airfield, with Pentagon claiming that it was used in a chemical weapons attack against a rebel-held town in Idlib province on Tuesday. The retaliation came before the UN or the OPCW, the chemical weapons watchdog, the incident. Washington sided with the rebel-linked activists, which accused Damascus of killing civilians with toxic gas. That's all I have for you in this article. More episodes to follow. If you like what I'm doing here, give it a thumbs up and share it on your social media so everybody gets to hear the news. Don't forget to subscribe. That way you'll stay informed.